Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Hour. I'm your host, Miguel Sanchez. It's been a while, but in today's show, I'm going to talk to you about the leisure funds business model. The reason why I'm doing this is I've been saying for a while, I believe the future way most businesses will need to be created is in public, right? So, what I mean by that is you need the interaction of the community you're trying to serve to make sure you're growing a business that they want and need. So I know a lot of people think and they're like, why would you talk about your ideas live on all social media platforms and everywhere in the world? To me, I believe ideas are not yours, right? If you want an idea to exist, it's better to let more people know about it than just you knowing about it, right? Because you know how many ideas I have that haven't made it because they're just in my head. So with this idea, I thought it's a good place to start because real estate, everybody understands real estate investment. Everybody, right? If you think about it, when you invest, you're investing in what's called securities. So, funny story, I had a CEO on my show, and he deals in securities, in equity crowdfunding securities. And he told me when he was on my show, as soon as he got off, he got a phone call from the government because the SEC, Security Exchange Commission, was watching based on, I don't know, they must have like some type of AI, and he said something wrong. So I have to be very careful about how I talk about this project, but I'm still going to figure out how to do it, right? I have lawyers that are literally, I'm writing up what I'm going to talk about so they could tell me, you can say this, you can't say that, right? But the idea is I need for my community to understand how to make ideas happen, right? So the idea of Jose, what's up, man? Angelique, what's up? Virginia, what's up? The idea of creating a company in public is scary enough, let alone creating one that is going to be SEC verified, you know? So I have to be very, very careful how I talk about it. But the idea is the idea. Once I go into how you invest, that's when I have to worry. But right now, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the business idea. So, and then the fact that doing it in public, I highly recommend anyone with a business idea do the same thing. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do what I do, lead by example, and just show you how ideas, they're not yours. And if you are scared to talk about your ideas in public, probably won't happen anyway, right? So to me, I'm just going to be the first one you've ever seen do it. So the leisure fund, the idea of the leisure fund came, and I've said this in other videos, but I'm sure you guys don't watch all my videos. I had an Airbnb years ago. I had the opportunity to have an Airbnb where I didn't own the real estate, right? It was just a relationship where I could pay the owner and then make profit on top, and then we both won. So I did that for many years. Side hustle stuff. I'm always into side hustles, figuring out how to make money multiple ways. What happened was New York City changed the laws, right? And when New York City changed the laws, I was operating illegally for about a year. Then it came to the point where I was like, let me quit while I'm ahead, because they started to up the fines. The fine started to be like $8,000 a day if they find you working illegally, like I definitely was. So I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to end it and I'll figure it out another time. And then, I travel, and I was in a place with a group actually looking to invest. And while we were there, we were looking at a bunch of properties. And I remember thinking, as the investors were like, yeah, I'm going to buy this one. Other investors, I'm going to buy this one. Oh, I might buy this one. I remember thinking, why can't we just buy all of them? Right. And everybody looks at me crazy because I'm crazy. And they're like, we don't got that much money. We could raise the money, which means Puerto Ricans and Dominicans can buy Puerto Rico and Dominican investment properties, right? Because if you're in America and you're Puerto Rican or Dominican, you can invest. So of course, the idea was there, but I had to really research a lot to figure it out. So the next thing I did was I said, okay, as a business model, when you're creating a business, you have to say, what are the ways this thing is going to make money? right? So the way I saw it was I can do what I already did, which is manage other people's Airbnbs and make sure they're operating them at the highest level to make the most money because I knew how to do that. That's one revenue stream. Another revenue stream is partner with people and say, let's say we go 50-50, 30-70, whatever percent on the property, we buy it together and we manage it for you. I manage it for you. So, and then of course, the end goal is just buy the properties and manage them, right? Those are the three business models. So when you create a business though, you have to test your idea, right? So I did test the first business model, which is rent someone else's. I did that for years. I know that inside and out. The second one I didn't know was how to create a partnership and buy a property together with a partner and then manage it. And that's where I took that to my dad and I started to talk to him about how I was thinking about it because I had many investors that were willing to do it. So and then I made a video, you can watch it later, of how my dad got involved, which was that I started breaking down the business plan to him and he was like, I'll do this with you. Don't do it with the other investors, do it with me. So I did that. So now I created, and there's going to be a link in the description. I think I didn't put it yet, but I will, in the Airbnb where me and my dad did version 2 of the business model. So the Security Exchange Commission handles securities. That's stocks and companies mostly, right? But a secure asset like a real estate property is the most secure security. Why is that? You know where it is. It's a physical thing and it can't move. So if we buy a building where I bought mine, Las Terrenas, Dominican Republic, that can't be taken and somebody else does whatever with it. But if you take a technology startup, people don't understand and people may think, well, what am I investing in? That's just code. Where does it live? How does it work? How do I get my money back? People don't really understand that, but people understand real estate. They understand there's a physical property there that I know forever will be there and I'm investing in it and I know it makes money. But I'm going to start connecting the dots of what the similarities are to technology and real estate. That's another reason I love this idea to start out in public because it gives me the chance to educate on both sides, right? Because technology startups, the upside is way more than real estate, but they're also a little more risky. But you just have to understand the opportunities. So the leisure fund, when I tell you my 3 business model ideas within the company, the one that's missing is, and right now I've just in the last 2 weeks set up the first version of a partnership. But already, because I'm creating content everywhere, people are reaching out to me and saying, look, I want to create a partnership with you. I want to do one the same way you did it with your dad. So I'm like, all right, give me a few. I'm setting all the paperwork up. I'm doing all the order of priority and making an idea happen, right? And of course, again, I'm lucky enough to run a company called Mass Ideation. This video is definitely sponsored by Mass Ideation, where I have done this for many people, right? My company makes ideas for people, and then it also makes my ideas, right? So this leisure fund is an idea I had, and my company's funding it. And then what's going to happen is it's going to create an entity outside of my company. My company will own a part of it, and then it will go off and run itself. And I'll eventually have to hire someone, a CEO, to run that company. I'm going to run it at first, but eventually I'm not going to run it, right? In the beginning, I'm going to figure it all out and then I'll hire a CEO. That's another thing many businesses do. So my idea is I take you along the process. You help me figure it out and we make money together. The idea is, and I didn't invent this. Somebody else is doing this and I'm going to have one of them on the show. A real estate fund. So you get shares just like stocks, right? So imagine being able to invest in Amazon, right? Apple's a better one. Apple's a better one because what Apple does is the value of Apple stock when you invest in it is a certain dollar amount, right? So over time, based on what Apple does, the value of that stock grows. But at the same time, Apple every quarter gives you a dividend distribution, right? So based on their profits and how well they're doing, they give a dividend to every shareholder based on how many stocks they own, right? So there's people that live their whole lives on the dividends of all the stocks they've invested in. What that means is they've invested millions of dollars in stocks, and then every quarter they get checks from all those companies, and that gives them enough money to live their whole life. They don't need to work. So that is a huge, thing that I didn't even know. I knew about it, but I didn't really understand how it worked. Now going into the tech stocks and the real estate stuff, I'm starting to learn it. And if you watch my YouTube content or my IG content or Twitter, wherever you watch, Facebook, you'll see me. I'm basically learning live on video. Again, I'm not afraid to say I don't know something, and I'm going to have somebody on the show. So again, if you have questions, I could see if I could try to answer it based on the things I know. But if I don't know, I'll get somebody to come on the show and explain it to us. What I'm doing right now, most people would not want to do, right? Especially about a business idea. Business ideas are risky. They can fail, and then you look like you got egg on your face, right? So, but I'm not worried about that. At the end of the day, I'd rather try and fail than never try. You know what I'm saying? Like, and before this, I never invested in a vacation real estate in my whole life. I have created multiple ideas, help companies raise millions of dollars, but not for myself, because I never really wanted to raise money for an idea that I thought I could create without raising the money, right? So if I know I can pay for it myself, I'd rather pay for it myself than to raise a bunch of money. With this idea, though, is I can't pay for all the real estate that I see. It's too much. If you get in on the shares early enough, the value, every time you buy a property, the value of the shares grows, let alone the monthly income from all the properties. That's the beauty of this vacation real estate thing, is the value of the property is pretty decent because people are going to vacation, right? No matter what. I don't care what the economy is. Right now, people are vacationing. Then the monthly revenue from a vacation real estate property is the highest you can have, because you're literally renting out day by day at the highest amount you can get. There's nothing else like that, right? So when you put all that together, I think it's a good idea. But what I'm going to do today live is I'm going to start showing you, walking you through how, like at Mass Ideation, when people come to me with ideas, and a huge, huge company came to me with a huge idea. So cross your fingers, help me get that project, because if I get that project, oh my God. Okay, thanks for that. But I'm going to take you through what's called the business canvas model, the business model canvas, right? What it does is it helps you think through your idea and see where the holes are, or where you need specific partnerships and things like that. And I haven't done it on purpose because I'm going to do it live with you guys here. I'm on board, Jose. Yeah, let's do it. My family, my friends have been talking about this. So another big thing Jose just made me think about. I am Puerto Rican, and I know most Hispanics have a story like I'm about to tell you, right? What happens in Hispanic families, at least a lot of them that I know, is what happens is when the parents pass away or the grandparents pass away, a property is left behind to the family. And what ends up happening is the family fights over who owns what. Oops, sorry. Who owns what in this property, right? So if you have a property that's just sitting there in an island that people vacation, what I'm thinking is I can give you a service where everybody starts making money from that property, instead of just sitting there and not in just rotting, right? So that's another business model that is part of this. I think it goes in the part of just the management. It could be in the middle where I can also buy into it and share in the profit. I'm not sure, but I see that as a huge opportunity, because I don't know many Hispanics that don't have that story in their family, right? So when I say buy back the Caribbean, part of what I'm saying is that, right, at the end of the day, we have property from our lineage, and it just goes to waste because people bicker over little in the grand scheme of things, little chunks of money when they could be making money forever off these properties, right? So that's another thing that I want anyone watching to think about. And my cousin's on. He knows we're gonna figure this out. We all gonna make money off everything our family has ever had, right? So, dude, I go to parts of DR, all European. Yes, exactly. I bought the property in DR off a European. That's why I said it when I was there. I'm like, Europeans own all this stuff. We could own it. And most of the time when we're looking at the properties, it was like you have to buy it off a European. And I was like, what if I could have Dominicans and Puerto Ricans buy these off these Europeans? And of course, you know, not everybody has 150K. All right, Spaniards never left. Yeah, but it's not always Spaniards. It's definitely Spaniards in DR. I found it was Spaniards, French, Italian, right? And then definitely how I feel is everyone else is pretty much treated like a slave, right? Like if you don't own, this is a big thing that I realized, and I really realized it mostly from dealing with this whole interaction. You are either building an asset or building somebody else's asset, right? So at the end of the day, you're either working for your own stuff to create stuff that gives you money every month, or you're just working for somebody that's what you're doing for them, right? And when I started dealing with the people working on the property for me, I told them straight up, look, I'm going to allow you to invest in this fund, and the money you make with me, I can give it to you, or you can invest in this fund and make money every month. And that is the way to change your current situation, because I could treat you like everyone else and just pay you. But the real way out of the situation you're in, and I was in it too, I'm in it, is to have equity. Have equity in things that make you money every month. That is the real way out. And that's why I rather build stuff like this than work for anyone, really, to be honest. And I know people have jobs, but the way out of it is you don't have to leave your job. You can have a great job and still invest in things, stocks, Bitcoin, real estate on the side, and build it up, just like the people I'm telling you that just get dividend revenue and live their whole lives off dividends revenue. That's what they do. You could do the same thing with a vacation property. You could do the same thing with stocks. You could do the same thing with Bitcoin eventually. But the idea is to start investing in things that pay you back or grow in value, or both, like vacation real estate will. You know, vacation real estate is going to grow in value and pay monthly. And it's a great place to start understanding investment, I think. So, okay, let's start the business model canvas. I got 30 minutes left. Any questions from anybody too? Definitely, if you're watching live, ask. Or if you love BMC, what's that? I don't know what that is. Or if you're watching later, ask the questions, I'll answer. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to show you the business model canvas. And then I'm going to just work through it real quick. And of course, I'm like I said, I'm building this company in public. So some of what I think about is how I feel is like you told me, let's start a company. And you came into my office and we're sitting around and we're talking it out. That's how I'm going to treat this. And a lot of you watching may have had that experience with me. So you'll get to see it if you haven't. All right. So business model canvas, share. And I know if you're watching on Instagram, you can't see this, but you go watch it on YouTube later. But I'm gonna try to do my color commentary. You know, my my award-winning globally televised color commentary. So, all right. So the business model canvas starts out when it talks about key partners. Key partners. So what are the key partners that I will need to make this happen? Right. So I don't know if you can see it. It's probably small. I'm not sure. All right. Who are our key partners? So of course, anybody knows Airbnb. Makes sense, right? Airbnb is the top company that sends traffic to vacation rentals. So of course, they will need to be one of our key partners, but it's not really suggested to only rely on one partner. So there are other websites that we intend to use. There's even some AIs I plan to use that will help generate the most revenue per property. So there's all kind of stuff like that. So those are also key partners, the AIs. Who are our key suppliers? So when I think about key suppliers, I think about the maintenance crews. And wherever we decide to buy, we need to make sure the maintenance crews that manage those properties are incentivized to make sure they're at the highest level possible, right? So that's why part of why I talk to the people from Dominican Republic the way I do is because I told them straight up, we are partners in this. You may not think it, but we are. Because if you don't clean this right or manage it right, and we get bad reviews, you stop making money and I stop making money, right? The difference is I own the property, you are getting paid. But here's another big thing that you need to understand. Until I don't pay this property back, truthfully, I'm not making money, right? So if let's say again, average a property costs 150K all in, I don't make money till that 150K is paid back, right? So you as a cleaner, you make money day one from scratch. For day one, you're making money. So if you don't treat this like a partnership, we're going to be both screwed, right? But you're going to be more screwed because I could just go to another platform or I could just book it myself, right? But at the same time, I want people to understand. I want them to feel like they own just like we will. They are also a very, very key supplier to us being able to pull this off, right? If our cleaning and our maintenance is bad, nobody's going to want to visit our properties. So that's a big thing. Which key resources are we acquiring from partners? So I just told you cleaning and maintenance, right? Because the way I see it is I want to be able to have properties anywhere that makes sense. I would like to have clusters of properties where we can take advantage of economies of scale, right? So right now, Las Terrenas is already an economy of scale for us. I have three partners with properties there, including me and my dad's. So now we can take advantage of the economy of scale when it comes to cleaning. We can have the cleaners work on more properties and it costs each property less, right? But if I went to some other place, that first property is going to have to pay the whole fee of managing and cleaning, right? And of course, the business model works even in that case. But just like Amazon and anybody else, once you understand your supply chain and you start to figure out how to make it cheaper in every level, more profit, right? So right now, Las Terrenas properties are going to have more profit than any other property because I've already started to figure out that supply chain and how to make the cost cheaper. And next would be probably Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is big, just like Dominican Republic is big. So if I have one property in Las Terrenas and another one, let's say another spot we were looking at was Jarabacoa, those cleaners can't do that. That's like a 3-hour trip, 3.5-hour trip. So now we have to create a different cluster. So right now we're focusing as the template in Las Terrenas. The next one, we got to figure out where that would be. But again, you guys will be involved in the whole conversation. So which key activities do partners perform? So again, cleaning, maintenance, marketing. That's what Airbnb and those type of sites will do. They will basically be the marketing that helps us generate more traffic to the properties. Then the AIs, they will be helping us get the most value per day by looking at data, looking at travel, looking at what's happening in the area. Each day, it will let us know what the highest amount we should be trying to charge. What else? All right, motivations for partnership, optimization, economy. So for me, the motivation for partnerships is I like to think about partnerships as not take it or leave it. It's like this will not work if this partner doesn't do what they need to do. Why I like to do that is because then I can make a system that people don't have to question, because part of it is, look, I'm relying on you at a level that, just like I did with the cleaners, right? I told the cleaners, look, you are my partner in this, and if you mess up, we both lose, right? So I'm setting this up where I'm relying on you as a partner. And I know you may feel like, oh, but I'm just an employee. No, you're not, right? If you were an employee, this would not work and I could just switch you out. With a cleaner, that sounds like, oh yeah, you can do that. But that's not easy, right? So if today my cleaning crew in the Dominican Republic just disappeared on me, I would have to go, stop everything, go to the Dominican Republic, find a new cleaning crew, train them, test them out, right? So all of that starts meaning I have to shut down the Airbnbs, we make less money. So they are pretty essential, and I want them to understand how essential they are, but I also want them to be incentivized to do a good job, not by just paying them. I want them to see that they have the opportunity to have equity in this business too, right? And I would put, like if they have bonuses, I can say, hey, you either take this bonus as cash or take some of it and put it in the equity fund, and you get a return of this much every quarter. And I told them straight up, I've been dealing with rich people for a while. Rich people do not make money from working. Jeff Bezos is not 150 million times more valuable than me. He has a system where he makes money off his money, right? Amazon is printing him money. He keeps him reinvesting. Amazon did not make a profit for 20 years. Why is that? He kept reinvesting all the profits, and he created stuff like AWS. AWS hosts most of the internet, hosts Netflix, it hosts Amazon Prime. This thing makes so much money, and it came from an investment when he was just selling books. So he reinvested in his business and he made it more and more valuable, right? So this is where I'm trying to educate even the cleaners at the level of the Dominican Republic property. This is how people make money. They invest, and then that money keeps growing and compounding, right? So Jeff Bezos, of course, nobody's 150 million times more valuable than anybody else. But when you invest that much and do things right that much, that's what ends up happening, right? So, okay, let's go to the next part. Key activities. What are our distribution channels? Goes back Airbnb, VRBO, I think it's called, booking.com, right? These are distribution channels. Also, I'm going to make a website, theleisureFund.com. URL is there. I got to build it. And on theleisureFund.com, I'm going to offer a discount, right? So if you come through theleisure.com, I'll give a percentage off. Why is that? Once we have a direct relationship with customers, that's a game changer, right? Think about what just happened. Economy, pandemic. Airbnb had the relationships. So if Airbnb didn't show the properties to the people on the site, your property was screwed. But if I had the emails of everyone who ever booked my property, and I could say, hey, right now I'm running a sale, 25% off, much more likely to get bookings, right? Than just to rely on somebody else's brand. That's not a good place to be. And that's why I create content too, right? I'm creating content because it can't hurt me to create content for my personal brand. And then what does it help? Helps every project I work on. This is just one of them. You're going to hear about all of them. This is the one that I feel like has gotten me the most engagement, because I do feel like people understand real estate more than most of the other stuff I do. But I'm going to drag you along, and you're going to learn from here how technology stocks work, how technology companies are built, all of that. So, and then how to invest, because I'm learning with you. All right. Everyone eats. Yes, Jose, that's right. I had the marketing team. Let's go. We're going to need all of this. Retargeting. I know. Jose's been on the show too. He has one of my most popular shows too. You got to go check that one out. Small business, marketing for small businesses, I believe it is. So yeah, man, Jose, we're going to talk. So, okay. What are key partners? Okay. So Jose, we got a key partner for marketing. There you go. All right. So let me see what else this chart is saying. So I will also, part of why I'm doing this too is I know people have ideas. They always hit me up. Hey, I got this idea. And everybody decides to call me during the show. But I'm kind of showing you my process, the process I've used at Mass Ideation for 10 years. I've worked with companies like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Google, big agencies, nonprofits, and I use this process. I don't care what the project is. I treat that project like it's my company. Like if I'm creating something that I need to work, because if it doesn't work, you're going to blame me, right? Even if it's a good idea that you thought it was a good idea, but it's a bad idea, sometimes I'll straight up tell clients, it's not a good idea. You need to do it this way. I don't care what if they feel like I'm being disrespectful. It's more about, you want this to work, right? I do too. I want it to work for you. So in this last, I'll tell you, I got a huge company talking to me right now. I said something in the meeting that the guy said, wow, nobody has ever said that to us, but you're 1,000% right, right? I told him straight up, the way they were thinking about it was not right. One of the biggest companies in the world. It's true. I'd rather you understand it, but what did it do? It put me in a different position than everybody else they're looking at to work on this, because he said, nobody else has asked that question, and you're 100% right about that. So that's what I do. That's why people like working with me. All right. So what key resources does our value proposition require? I know this is hard to see. You know what? I'm not gonna show it. I'm just gonna read it out loud because it's really hard to see. Okay, so hold on, what did it say? What key resource do our value propositions require? Our distribution channels, customer relationships, revenue streams. So I spoke to you about the revenue streams, distribution channels, customer relationships, right? I told you all that is being thought out, right? I'm saying I got to create this website where I get the relationship to come through me, not only Airbnb. Because when somebody books on Airbnb, I don't believe they just give you their email address. I gotta check that. I know I can talk to them through the app, but I don't think I get their email address. I gotta check on that. It's been a while since I ran it. Before, what would happen was, because I would get mostly people from other countries, I would get their WhatsApp, and then I'd be talking to them through WhatsApp. And that's what happens in Dominican Republic too. But if you have somebody's email is the number one way to sell anything, right? So if you have a relationship through email, it's a better relationship, right? So for me, when I look at this question, I think about, all right, it says types of resources: physical, intellectual, brand, patents, copyrights, data, human, and financial. So part of what I see with this company is the value in this company comes when I get the community engagement and the customer engagement to go to the properties, right? So what I mean by that is I need to raise money to buy these properties, right? So I need people like you who are watching to want to be a part of this journey. How can I do that? One idea I have is create an app where I engage with you and show you the properties and say, do you like this? Do you like this one? What's the vote, right? So imagine we get 1,000 people to give $1,000, right? Now we have money to buy something. I would like to go to the crowd and say, here's the options. Here's how we see the business model for each one. Which one do you think we should do? And now it feels like it's a true partnership instead of me just saying, yeah, we're going to buy this. Of course, sometimes I may have to make that decision because I know things that you may not. And if you don't ask me specifically, you won't understand why. But I'm open to the asking of any question. And that's why I'm doing this live, right? So again, if anybody has any questions, definitely ask. So the idea is I would create an app that the leisure fund investors have, right? And then you go into the app and you see the properties. You see the properties that are available to us, and you say, you know what? I really like this one. I'm going to vote for this one. I don't like this one. I like this one. Then that could help us when we're looking at it internally and we say, look, 80% of our crowd likes this one. Maybe that does lean it a little bit heavier towards us investing in that one. Then on the other side is I could do the same for the visitors, right? So imagine if visitors, I said, hey, do you want to be involved in the future properties that we may invest in? Who knows? Maybe they might be like, yeah, you know what? I like this one. I would travel to this. And what does that do too? Two-prong effect. Maybe they invest too. And every time someone invests, this is the beauty of stock and stuff like this. Every time someone invests, it makes the value of your shares higher. When people really understand the power of this, especially in minority communities, we can create so much wealth for ourselves. Right now, we do it, but we do it for other companies. When you see a rapper promote some brand, that brand is getting all that reward from that, all that traffic that that rapper or celebrity entertainer brought to them. Imagine, imagine a company where you got to buy shares at the lowest amount, and then a person like that promotes it, growing the value of your shares. So you can do that yourself, right? So at the end of the day, if you said, hey, I just invested in this leisure fund and somebody else invests, just by that happening, the value of your share grew, right? And then when that property is purchased, the value of that property grows the value of the company too. So it sounds like too good to be true. And that's why I'm trying to poke every hole I can see in it while I think it through. I'm talking to everybody I possibly can. I'm taking both sides. There's people that don't think vacation properties are a good investment. So I'm talking to them and I'm trying to understand why. And the reason why they believe that is because they believe if the law changes and you can't rent it as much as you thought you could, the value goes down of the investment. Valid. That's part of why I didn't do it in New York and places like that, right? I said, all right, let me go to a place where it's probably a long time before they care enough to change the laws, if ever. Because I don't think we can stop this Airbnb model, just like everybody's trying to stop Uber and stuff like that. Innovation cannot be stopped. You could try all you want, but it's going to happen. There's companies that are trying to hold off innovative companies, but they're going to take it over. Just like Uber took over every cab company, you cannot hold it down forever. This innovation is not going anywhere. It's just how can we play it as long as possible? And how can we be involved in it? You start generating enough revenue to become a partner, to partner with us on a property, right? To partner on a property, it has to be a little bit more money. It can't be like, oh, I gave $500. I want to partner on a company, on a property that costs $150K. It's a little tough to do that. But I'm trying to figure out what levels, and this could be a question I take to the crowd. What level do you think should make sense to make a partnership? 1K, 5K, 10K. Because if a property costs 150K and you give him one, you have less than 1% of that property. Is that going to be worth it to you? If it's 5K, it's a little more, but is it still worth it? I don't know. So these are things I question in this model. Leisure travel is down 50 to 8% than last year in most major markets in the US. Where are you pulling multi-year forecasts and current funds? So the reason why I started at Las Terrenas is because I knew when people on the island want a getaway, they go to Las Terrenas. So right now, even though travel is down, and I did not see this pandemic coming, that area, Airbnb searches are up 200%. Why? Because it's a destination, even for people locally. So that's part of our formula. We have a formula that the math has to work, the location has to work for many, many variables, right? Some of the variables I spoke about here. Do we think the laws are going to change there? Do we think it's a destination people can drive to? Do we think it has upside? So there's also insider information that I won't say publicly that about Las Terrenas that I've gotten from multiple high-level people that says that area will come up pretty big time. So that's where also we get this information and we say, all right, is it worth taking the gamble on this information? We did. Me and my partners, we all did. Now, do you want to take advantage of all the work we did? You can by the next property that we do. And I think we're going to be able to do it for like 150K. So if we can raise 150K, we can buy another property there. And Puerto Rico I've been having people call me from Puerto Rico. They have this property, they have that property. And then there's not even just that. That's if you want to buy the property, which is part of what people say they don't like. Why people say they don't like vacation real estate is because they feel like you have to buy the entire property. And what happens if you can't rent it? Worst case scenario, you still have the value of the property, but they also want that return of renting, right? So in Puerto Rico, I know many people that are not only buying, they're going to people that may be about to lose their house or they have family situations where it's just rotting and saying, hey, how about this? We'll rent it for you and we'll give you a percentage of the profits. And now you make money on something that you have where right now it's just sitting there, right? So that is another business model that you can take. There's people that run their whole business like that. They never buy. But what I think about the buying and renting is the asset wealth will grow, right? So imagine we have 10 properties worth 150K. Now the value of the company is way higher, right? So now the shares grow in value. And then as we rent them, the dividends will be better too, right? So because the profit is better when you buy it, right? So if you rent it, it costs you more every month. If you buy it, you get a cheaper price. Like right now, if we own the property, the profit is 100%. We don't have a loan. We don't have all these other stuff, right? So more profit in dividends and more value in the company. That's why I really like this idea. Any questions from anybody? 2,500 to 5K. So Jose says he believes partnerships to start at 2,500 to 5K. I like that number. I was thinking probably around 5K. 2,500 may work. It really depends, I guess, on the crowd. We got to see what makes the most sense. What's up, John? How you doing? What's up, everybody watching? Jeff, what's good? So, all right, let me try to get through this chart in the next 10 minutes. But everybody should check out. If you have an idea, you should definitely check out the business model canvas. It's a good way to start thinking through your idea. Cost structure. I just started explaining a lot of the cost structure. There's just management. So we can charge, there's companies charging 20 to 30% just to manage properties for people. And they're happy with that because they don't have to deal with all the madness. And trust me, it's madness. So that's kind of the going rate. I check again. I haven't looked in a while, but 20 to 30% of revenue is average for management. We'll see about that. Then there's the partnership, which is, let's say, do the math easy. We spent 100K on a property. The fund put 50. The person put 50. Now we know 50% of all revenue goes to the person. 50% of all revenue goes to the fund. Easy math. Then when the when the fund buys the whole property, 100% goes back to the investors. So that's my cost structure so far. There is some things that I have to think through. There is cost overall of running a company, right? So 100% of the funds can't buy the property. There has to be a percentage for marketing, for running it, for people like me, for other people that I need to go look at properties, travel. Like I went to Dominican Republic like 6 times looking at properties. The first time it was just, let me go learn with a bunch of investors. After that, it was like, all right, I got to figure out how to get as many of these as possible. And learning the process. I literally watched investors buy their properties. So I got to see the whole process. I watched them set up their properties. I watched them rent their properties from start to finish. And then I said, all right, I saw it from bird's eye view. Now I need to do it, right? So I just finished that process of doing it myself. So now as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, all right, here's a system we can use for that. Here's a system we can use for that. Here's a person I think I could work with for this. And then how I can like scale, right? So let's see what else. Customer relationships. So in this day and age, what the internet has done, and is why the internet is such a beautiful thing, it eliminates the middleman. But like I told you with Airbnb is the middleman. They're making 3% of every sale, right? And they're making billions of dollars of being the middleman. But in a way, I'm not trying to bank on Airbnb forever, right? So the idea is I'm going to try to get as many of those customers under our brand, under our customer relationship management system, because the more of that we have, the greater our profits, right? Because imagine we get to the point where we're big enough where we don't need Airbnb. That 3% stays with us, right? And what Airbnb does is huge. Airbnb takes that percentage, but they also hold the money. So think about this. Let's say today you book a vacation for April. Airbnb takes that money from that person today. They hold that money till April. They don't just have it in the bank. They invest it. So think about that. They have billions of dollars that they can invest. What could we do if we have billions of dollars to invest? Buy more property, right? So eventually the goal is to not rely on these Airbnbs, VRBOs The goal is eventually to take the bookings ourselves and then hold the money and invest that money and get more real estate, right? That's just the truth of it all. Channels. All right, overhead cost of doing business, legal, finance. Yes, exactly. So that's something, John, you're talking about that I have to figure out. Most businesses operate at a 30 to 50% margin. What that means is if you buy the service for $10, five of those dollars go to the company being run. So only five of those dollars go into the project, the product being made, right? So different businesses, different margins. I got to figure out what's a good margin for this because I am going to need people and they got to be paid. So I can't use 100% of the funds on the properties and then nobody's running the company, right? So I got to really figure that out. And of course, the SEC is going to want to see that because, SEC is trying to protect investors. And I want that. That's part of why I'm not scared of doing this that way. I want people to feel safe because I know I am a Puerto Rican man from the Bronx in technology. There's not a lot of people that look like me. So most people won't have the trust in me off the bat. But once the SEC is involved, you're going to trust it a lot more than if it was just me asking you for money, right? So, all right, awareness, evaluation, purchase, delivery, after sale. Through which channels do your customer segments want to be reached? Okay, so I told you Airbnb, VRBO. I'm going to even do some individual one-on-one connecting. Customer segments. I spoke about the customer segments. There's two sets of customers in this business, right? I have the investors, people that are investing in properties, partnerships, and then people who are visiting the properties. To me, they are all kind of mixed because if you are an investor, you may visit the property too. If you're a property, just visiting the property, you may want to invest once you see what we're doing and you realize it's not many things like it that you can invest in, right? If you like going on vacation, it makes sense that you invest in something that makes money on vacation, right? And that's how I came across all of this. I spoke about it in one of the videos. This whole thing came from a conversation with an entrepreneur that told me, I like building businesses around things I like doing. So I was like, that makes sense. I like building animation technology. That's why I made mass ideation. And he was like, well, I like traveling. And I was like, I like traveling too. He's like, I created a business around traveling because I have multiple Airbnbs across different places and they pay my bills. And then I get to go to these places and go on vacation. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That might be better than mine. So I said, all right, how could I get in this game? First way to get in the game was not to buy property. It was to manage another person's property. So I did it. And it did make me side hustle money. And it was easy enough for me to do on top of mass ideation. So I did it, right? But the real truth is, if I would have never had that conversation, I don't know if I ever would have thought of this. I don't even know if he knows still. I got to reach out to him. He pretty much set my mind on a path to say, why not have that as your side hustle? And then eventually it can make it so it does bring in a nice amount of revenue, but it also helps the community, right? If you can buy if we can buy back our island and make all the money back on our islands, that there's nothing better for me. Like I will be super happy if what happens from this company is that most of our vacation real estate in the countries we come from are owned by the people who left those countries or even still live in them. That's the way I think to change generational wealth, for us to own as much as possible. So on that note, if anybody else has any questions, all right, depends on the people that have, but 3% should be the minimum. Okay, so 3% of a property should be the minimum you can invest in. Okay, I like that idea. Once you have the data, we'll figure it out. All right, that was a good one from Jose. If anybody else thinks about where they think the minimum investment of a partnership should be, because like he's saying, 3% of a property, it could be about 3 to 5K, right? Depending on the property. And there's another thing I want to say before I go on this one. Luxury properties don't always make the most money. That's another thing I've been finding with this formula. Because of course, you can go and be like, oh, look at this 10-room villa. they're renting for $5,000 a night. But then when you look and you say, all right, they want $3 million for this villa. So you could raise $5 million a year. We really want to waste $3 of that million on one property? That's very risky, right? So for me, that's why I have a sweet spot that I've been really figuring out the math on, and I have a sweet spot. That's why I say when I say 150K, it's very thought out. And eventually I will break it all down to the people who are actually interested. I don't know if I'll go super public on all that, but there's a reason to be in a sweet spot of luxury, but not luxury, right? Because the math just won't work out, like I just explained. I've seen villas when I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then when I do the math, I'm like, it's going to be really hard for me to pay investors back. But the properties I'm looking at in 5 years, in 5, 10 maximum, the property's paid back and it's full profit, right? Think about that. How many things can you invest in and in 5 years get your money back 100%? It's not that many, not that many. So that's how I'm looking at it. The formula I'm using is if we can invest in it and pay it back in 5 years, that's the sweet spot. And that has a lot of other variables, but that's the core of it. So I want to thank anybody who watched, anybody who had questions, anybody who typed in, anybody who shares, anybody who subscribes. I truly appreciate it. And I'm going to keep building this company in front of you. And I'm trying to convince my other partners in other companies to let me do the same. But with this one, I don't need to ask anybody. But I love the fact that people are engaging with this and are interested. And I think we're on to something. My next thing is I'm going to start designing the logo. I'll show you guys that process too. How can we dig into some of the active funds? Any case studies you can share? So there is one called New Res, and I'm going to have her on the show. I'm going to show you the website right now. So New Res, I put it in there. You can go check her out. I'm going to have her on the show. She's also huge on YouTube. She has a huge following. And she's thought a lot of this out too. And she's actually doing it. So I would highly recommend you check her out too. And like I said, there's no such thing really as competition. You just have to understand that there's enough property for all of us to buy. Like I don't see anything as competition. She has her market. We're gonna have ours, and there's unlimited stuff right now. And unfortunately, it's gonna get worse when COVID ends and all these properties are starting to be figured out what needs to happen with them because people can't pay them no more. I really want to be ready with the fund by then. So that's part of why all this needs to be done by, I would say, by the summer of next year. Because if we have a fund ready for all that property that's available by then, we can, one, help families out, because it doesn't mean that we have to kick them out. We can say, hey, why don't we partner with you? You're about to lose this house, but if you work with us, you can still keep equity in it and make money versus just losing your life savings, you know? So that's another hope that I have. So thanks again for anybody who watched. Hopefully it was helpful, and I look forward to doing more. Thank you again for coming and watch the Entrepreneur Hour.